Well, good morning, and thank you to everybody for joining us here today. I really appreciate your time and for coming out on this beautiful day as we stand here at our wonderful high school. I am Mayor Sean Spiller, and with me, you're about to hear from and see up here some wonderful people who've agreed to serve on a task force to do some really important work. And I think that's where we're all here today, about our students, our schools, our community. And I could not be more excited that as I reached out to so many individuals, and I heard from so many individuals in this community, there was such a willingness to serve, which is just the Montclair way. Now we know it has been 434 days since our state went into lockdown because of COVID-19. When we look in the mirror, many of us see someone changed by the pain and loss and sacrifice this pandemic has thrust upon us. As we emerge from this difficult year, I am so grateful. I am grateful of how Montclair has come together to fight this pandemic, to take care of neighbors, and to come together in any way that we need to and can. The Montclair spirit burns brightly, even in the most difficult of times. We have changed our routines, sacrificed so much of what we took for granted, and we've mourned the loss of too many. But together we have faced a public health crisis, the likes of which we've never seen before, and we've done it head on. And now we're getting vaccinated together. Over 56% of Montclair residents are fully vaccinated, and another 23% have received their first shot. Kudos to everyone involved on that front. Congratulations to all on that. Good work. And the work is not done on that front. We will continue to make sure everyone has easy access to get vaccinated. And this fall, we have every expectation, all of us that you see here today, that our schools will be open for full in-person instruction. Today we come together to make sure we are planning for a successful return, a return that brings us back not just to a new normal, but a better normal. And I know that is what everyone standing with me here today is anticipating. Given the impact of COVID-19 on the academic and social and emotional health of so many, it is crucial to facilitate a smooth return to full-time, in-person learning that our students, their families, our staff, and administrators, and our community are confident will provide a nurturing, safe, and healthy environment. We cannot afford anything less. In the face of so much lost, I have heard from and spoken with so many Montclair parents in this past year. We have discussed the challenges and frustrations and shared the sometimes helplessness of our circumstances. But the tide is turning and we have a new reality. And as it does, we need to take this opportunity to look at ways that we can come back better. There are opportunities with the support from the federal, state, and county levels, and combined with the work of this task force and others, to make improvements, to maximize our strengths, and to provide an even more robust educational experience for all of our students. And that is why today I'm announcing the formation of the full-time task force. This task force includes parents, students, educators, community leaders, members of our Board of Education, and administrators. The goal is to bring together a diverse array of perspectives and expertise to support the process of reopening our schools for full-time, in-person learning. Importantly, the task force will provide an opportunity for students, parents, and the community to bring forth ideas and to discuss potential changes, enhancements to programs, and other ways to strengthen our great public schools. The task force will seek input from parents, students, and the community to provide recommendations to our Board of Education and administration on an ongoing basis. A big thank you to Deborah Jennings, a longtime Montclair resident, for agreeing to chair the task force. Deborah is a nonprofit leader with decades of experience in special education, parent advocacy, and equity. She will assure that we leave no student behind. Deborah's broad experiences and know-how will help ensure that Montclair students have the support and opportunities they deserve. I thank her again for taking on this crucial charge. Also, thank you to Deputy Mayor Bill Herlock. Despite the limitations and boundaries that we face, he will serve as my representative on the task force and work to keep me and the council abreast of the latest developments. Of course, the task force is certainly well served with the key inclusion of Dr. Pons and members of his administration, and of course with the inclusion of classroom educators. But a real key to this work, a real key will be amplifying the voices of those whose school impacts the most, our students. Their needs and their voices need to be heard, and their positions and understanding of where we need to go needs to be amplified. I know the high school members of this task force will provide us adults with a window into the needs of the wants of our students. The leaders that you see standing here, and so many others, including our parents, students, representatives, and additional community nonprofit advocates, will provide an incredible breadth and depth of experience to plan for reopening and future resiliency. I know the task force will be informing the community about opportunities for input, because our input is only as strong as everybody participating, and we need your input. We have already heard from so many of you offering to contribute, for which we are very grateful. There will be plenty of opportunities for all parents to provide feedback and ask questions of the task force as they get underway with their work. With the formation of this task force and the commitment of our Board of Education, including my 3 new appointments and educators to the students of this town, I am more confident than ever that our great public schools will be right where we need them to be, and that our families can start to heal. I know that many of you have emailed and called our Board of Education to share your thoughts over the past year. You have attended board meetings and shared your truths. But sometimes an email or a 3-minute window is not enough to truly engage. With the selection of parents to this task force, as a representative of so many who've reached out, and with the input the task force will receive from any others who want to be part of this process, we have a chance to do something very special here. That is the real magic of this task force and of our community. So I say a big thank you to all of you. I also want to thank Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill and Congressman Donald Payne Jr. and Commissioner Brendan Gill for their advocacy on behalf of Montclair. From the federal funding to vaccination efforts and so much more, this has been a collaborative effort from every level of government and within our community. Together with their support and the work of this task force, I am confident that we have all the resources we need to not only return to full-time in-person learning, but to do so stronger and more resilient than ever. It is now my honor to introduce Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, who has been a staunch advocate for Montclair, Essex County, and New Jersey at the federal level, and who understands firsthand the challenges of this school year. Please help me in welcoming Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today marks a step forward for our children's future, and I'm here to support the task force Mayor Spiller is putting together to take steps to ensure our children's safe return to school full-time in person. I'm speaking here not just as a member of Congress, but as a mother and a member of this community. I've seen firsthand the devastating effects this pandemic has had on our students trying to learn in an unprecedented time. And I've heard countless stories from parents, especially working moms, and students across the district. I watched my own children struggle through month after month of Zoom classes, and my husband and I have tried, often unsuccessfully, to keep track of their homework, ensure they're logging in and staying engaged, all while holding down full-time jobs. It's taken a toll on everyone's mental health and well-being, and it's had a disproportionate impact on our communities of color. We know that remote learning has had significant negative impacts on students. Beyond learning loss, our children are struggling in isolation. Much more than just a place to study, school is a place to socialize, to make friends, and benefit from the human connection that we all need. That's why it's critical that Mayor Spiller has formed this task force. There's no question we need to get the students here back in the classroom full-time. So I've worked in Congress, and I've continued to advocate to get our children back to in-person learning. In December, as plans were being formulated for how the vaccine would be distributed, I led members of the New Jersey delegation in a bipartisan letter to Governor Murphy, encouraging him to prioritize teachers and school employees. As I've traveled across the district and spoken to people across the country, I can tell you the Essex County vaccination program has been second to none. Thank you, Commissioner Gill, for being here today and for your continued work to vaccinate our community, including special programs for teachers and now our students. By March, just like many of you, I was still extremely frustrated at the pace. So I introduced a resolution in the House in support of the safe reopening of schools, calling again for the prioritization of teachers and vaccine distribution, and highlighting the impact school closures are having on students across the country. The resolution drew specific attention to the potential lasting impacts the pandemic may have on students and how it is exacerbating existing achievement gaps and disparities in our education system. This resolution had wide support in the community, including Governor Murphy, New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association, the Montclair NAACP, SEIU 32BJ New Jersey, NJ11 for Change, and Blue Wave New Jersey. The wide array of support I heard for this resolution went to show how this was impacting not just students and educators, but working families and whole communities as well. In addition, over the past year, I voted for the CARES Act, the December Omnibus Relief Package, and the American Rescue Plan, which all included provisions that brought aid to our schools and students and expanded our vaccination distribution efforts. The CARES Act created the Education Stabilization Fund, which provided $13.5 billion in grant funding to K-12 schools. These funds could be used by school districts to purchase educational technology to support online learning, hire additional teachers and staff to support health and safety plans, upgrade ventilation and other health and safety related infrastructure, and implement expanded sanitation and cleaning programs. The Education Stabilization Fund received an additional $54.3 billion from the December relief package. And then we passed the landmark American Rescue Plan, which included more than $125 billion directly targeted to help aid our students and educators and get them back in the classroom. The American Rescue Plan also ensured that 20% of that money had to be set aside to directly address learning loss. Schools can use these funds for summer learning and enrichment programs, comprehensive after-school programs, and extended school year programs. In total, my colleagues in Congress and I brought over $4 billion back to New Jersey schools to help with COVID expenses and reopening, with an estimated $9 million allocated to Montclair through elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds. The NJDOE website has details on each of the 3 tranches of federal ESSER funding and should have allocation and distribution information for the latest ARP ESSER funding amounts next week. While it's devastating that some of our Montclair High School students may not see a classroom in the 2020-2021 academic year, I'm optimistic that today's announcement is a positive step forward towards solving the barriers that remain for Montclair schools' full reopenings. Mayor Spiller's efforts to bring together local officials, teachers, parents, and union members through this task force will get us closer to our shared goal of getting our students back on track in the wake of the pandemic. And it will also help with communication between the local stakeholders. This past year has been challenging for this community, as it has been for almost every community. And I hope that bringing people together will help move things forward. So I look forward to seeing the work the task force does and what solutions they arrive at to get students back in the classroom full-time as soon as possible and address the learning loss our children are facing. Whether it's summer programs, after-school enrichment programs, or additional tutoring opportunities, we have to get our kids back on track for their future. And I hope we find a way to ensure that Montclair schools never face the kind of obstacles they've faced during this crisis again. Congressman Payne and I, along with Senators Menendez and Booker, have fought hard to deliver the federal money necessary to get our kids back to school. I'm grateful for this task force's commitment to finding a path to have our kids in school full-time and moving us all forward. I want to thank everyone again for being here today to support our community. Thank you.
And now, also on behalf of Congressman Donald Payne Jr., who has been a staunch advocate for our community in so many ways as well, I want to introduce Michael Gray. Michael?
Thank you. Good morning. I see no Congressman could not be here today due to prior engagement, but he asked me to read this statement on his behalf. It is a pleasure to be here to represent Congressman Payne. And I want to thank Mayor Sean Speller for the invitation to speak with you today. Congressman Payne Jr. understands that few institutions have been as devastated by COVID-19 as our schools. Last year, we had to take the unprecedented move to close our classrooms to protect students and staff. But today, more and more Americans are getting vaccinated, and that means that we are closer to the day that when we can return to in-person instruction completely and safely. The American Rescue Plan was passed to bring that day closer to reality. It includes $130 billion to help local school districts protect the safety of our students and staff. New Jersey received almost $2.8 billion. And Congressman Payne, along with his colleague, Congresswoman Mikey Scherer, and the congressional delegation fought to get $6.3 million to the Montclair school system. The money will help schools reduce class size or modify class spaces for in-person instruction, and it will supply protective equipment for students and the staff. And it will also improve the health and safety of schools to protect them from the COVID-19 pandemic. Congressman Payne Jr. is dedicated to getting the students back in the classroom safely. He wrote a letter to the Department of Health and Human Services to designate teachers as frontline workers. President Biden supported it and got teachers moved up in the national vaccination plan. And he wrote a letter to President Biden to implement his Masks for Students Act. The bill will direct the federal government to reimburse schools for their protective equipment expenses. Schools need their funding to continue and improve students' education. And the government needs to reimburse schools to support those efforts. But the congressman's effort in Congress are more effective when we have strong local programs to support them. And Mayor Spiller, 4-time in the 4 task force, is an example of such a program. It will include local parent and official to discuss the safest methods possible to get students back into the classrooms. And the congressman looks forward to hearing from the task force in the future. Like this event, it is another way of the congressman and the staff to hear from you about what is needed to support our community. Again, I want to thank Mayor Spiller for the invitation to be here on behalf of Congressman Payne, and I look forward to hearing from the task force in the future. Thank you. Thank you.
Real free. Thank you so much, Michael. And now it's my pleasure to introduce someone who's, yes, at the county level serving us so well as one of our commissioners, but also who's a parent here in town, and I think, as we all know in Montclair, more famously known as the son of somebody who really is a great legend here in Montclair. So it's my pleasure to introduce our county commissioner, Brendan Gill. Brendan?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. It's I'm 46 years old, but I'll still always be the son, no matter where I go in this town, of Mr. Gill. But I'm proud of that fact. And actually, he celebrated his 74th birthday yesterday on his 51st year in this school district, so he's still at it. And I just said to Deborah, she said, "Is he still in Glenfield?" And I said, "Yeah, he's still down there, And he's happy to be back in that classroom. Trust me. So I'm really here, first of all, and honored to be with all of you this morning. To Congresswoman Cheryl, thank you for your leadership each and every day for our community. Thank you for those gracious words. We are so lucky to have you representing us in Congress and delivering for us each and every day. So thank you so much for what you do. To my good friend Michael Gray, thank you for being here on behalf of Congressman Payne. To our superintendent, our school board president, our new incoming school board members, the members of this committee, to the mayor and councilman. It's great to be with you as well. And Mayor, thank you for pulling us together. As the mayor noted, these are not abstract issues for many of us. I am the parent of 2 children in this district, a graduate of this school, and care deeply about the future of our community. And when I say "our," I genuinely mean that. And at the county level, we're trying to do everything we can to facilitate a return to school right away. We started with making sure that our teachers were able to have access to vaccinations. Our sites, I think I'm proud to say, have been well run, have been accessible, and we are now fully open and ready to now vaccinate children. We have the Pfizer vaccine open and ready down to the age of 12. I would encourage everyone to have their children vaccinated. Yeah, let's give that a round of applause under the leadership of our county executive, Joe D. we have 350,000 people in this county who have now been vaccinated. And that is a big number, and we want to increase that number, and we are ready to go. But one of those things, actually this morning when I was looking at the openings and availability, right now we have the issue of more shots than arms. We need arms. We need to spread this word in the community, and I hope one of the charges of the task force will be, Mayor, to also pitch in on that part, not only to address these academic issues, getting our kids, of course, back to school, which we fully expect to all be back in school as fast and as possible and immediately in September, but to also make sure that everyone is receiving the vaccine, that we have access to the vaccine, and we're encouraging all of the kids in this community that can get it to get it. So, Mayor, know that at the county level, we are here to support you. You have a community, and I would close by reminding everyone that this pandemic is our enemy, not one another, not one another. And education issues in Montclair are not for the faint of heart. Thank you for all that volunteer to be a part of it. But we are not the enemy, and our children are looking to us, in my opinion, to set that example. So we're beating this pandemic, we're going to beat it, and the only way we're going to continue to beat it is to come together. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for being here, and let's get back to school right away.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. Next, I also want to bring up someone who really, as I made the call, really agreed to step up and chair this task force. She's done some great work throughout this state in advocacy roles for many years. Could not be more thrilled than to have the chair of this task force, Deborah Jennings. Deborah, thank you so much. Deborah.
So this is my first meeting outside of Zoom in, 434 days.
Don't forget the unmute button when you're
Unmute. So throughout this year of the pandemic and the racial reckoning, I have continually asked, how can I help? What can I do? How can I serve? So when Mayor Spiller contacted me about this task force, I said to myself, okay, Deborah, you asked for it, you got it, so here I am. Many of you know me and many of you may not know me, and so I thought it would be important to let people know a little bit more about who I am and where I come from and, you know, some of the things that I've done in Montclair and outside of Montclair. A lot of you know me as Coach Jennings' wife, and that is an important role. And Ariel and Jennifer, Montclair High School graduates' mom, and Sean Jennings' sister-in-law. But many of you don't know that I'm a former member of the Montclair School Board and served during a time when there was no 3-minute limit, just so you all know. So we were there till 1 and 2 in the morning. I'm a founder of Imani, the Imani College Advocacy Center, also a co-convener of Concerned African American Parents of Montclair. I've served as PTA Council co-president as well as the PTA president here at Montclair High School. So I've done a lot in Montclair, but in these last 10 years or so, much of what I've done has been outside of town. So I was really pleased to be able to come and to serve in my town. I've been a thought partner with just about every New Jersey Commissioner of Education since Mary Lee Fitzgerald. That kind of tells you about how old I am. I'm a member of the New Jersey Special Education Stakeholder Work Group, as well as being a member of the New Jersey School Mental Health Work Group, and also I was part of the work group that helped to put together New Jersey's school opening plan last summer. Currently, I'm the president of Salvation and Social Justice, which is an organization that is working for racial justice, criminal justice through the lens of theology. And I'm very pleased to serve as their president. And I'm also a ordained ruling elder of Elmwood United Presbyterian Church, which is located in East Orange. Like many of you, I remember that moment when I knew this pandemic was real. I was days away from jumping on a plane to travel to a city in Iowa to meet with community members about the inequitable discipline of students with disabilities, especially Black students. I was excited about it and having this opportunity to go to a place and work with real people on the ground and to facilitate their advocacy efforts. So we made a decision at one point that we were going to have to delay that Tuesday flight. It was the Tuesday before the Friday when schools started to shut down. And we were, as the head of, as a co-executive director of SPAN, our staff people were being told, your children, our schools are closing. And because our staff is primarily parents, we have been closed at SPAN since March the 13th. I look forward to SPAN reopening. Over the course of the year, I figured out how to work with people on these kinds of issues despite our being able to be together in person. During this pandemic, I've been able to continue to work with state education leaders from across the United States and territories. And all of this is particularly around bringing the voices of families and communities together to solve problems, especially families and students from historically marginalized communities. So I'm ever grateful to be able to bring my experience, my knowledge, and my passion here to Montclair. I want to thank our congressional representatives, Congresswoman Sherrill and Congressman Payne, and your colleagues for really hearing the pain and hearing what people were going through and bringing to bear your strength and your power in order to so that we can have the resources to deal with this pandemic, the health, the mental health, the education pieces in particular, as well as jobs. I want to thank our Commissioner, Gill. I got my second shot only 12 days ago, so I'm 2 days away. And for really, I think this county is an absolute wonderful example and model of bringing to bear and really harnessing the resources to get people tested, vaccinated, and to follow the science that tells us that this is the way out of this pandemic, and that we can begin to think about fully opening safe and supportive schools and child care facilities sooner than later. I want to thank our superintendent, Dr. Pons, and his team. They have been baptized by fire, y'all. And it has been, I'm sure, a huge challenge for him. And I look forward to working with him and his team and the members of the school board in order for us to come together and to meet the challenge head on. And last but not least, I want to thank Mayor Spiller for this opportunity to serve my town. And thank you for pulling this task force together to activate the kind of collaboration that has been a hallmark strategy for problem solving in Montclair. A collaboration that recognizes that no one person or organization has all the answers. A collaboration that brings together a diversity of perspectives that will generate a diversity of solutions. A collaboration that is informed and driven by equity and by that social compact in Montclair that we are always seeking to make real. A collaboration that will keep students at the center, tossing out this national narrative that focuses on student deficits and learning loss and looks to address systemic deficits and inequities while building on the student and family strengths that have emerged during this difficult time. Strengths like resilience and creativity, nimbleness, savvy, passion, and compassion, and a sense of community. This all takes collaboration and working together to make real what Montclair has always believed in and strived towards, even without the prominence of a pandemic and racial unrest. People that know me know that I am no Pollyanna. This is Montclair, and sometimes the M is for messy. But what I want you to know is that ultimately it is through the mess that Montclair emerges and becomes better. Thank you for the leadership and the contributions of each of the members of this task force. I'm looking forward to working with you and really shaking some things up and shaking some things out and really getting to the solutions that we need. Thank you, everyone.
Well, I think everyone sees very clearly why Deborah is the chair here and doing some great work and going to continue to do some great work as part of this task force. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And I just want to close out today by saying I think it's very important, and I hope not lost on anyone, is that you look at all the individuals who stand here together today. Education leaders, educators, parents, board members, community-involved members, elected officials at all levels, county, local, federal level. You see president of our board, board members, students, superintendent, administrative team. You are looking at everybody coming together. As you've heard from everyone who's spoken here today, this is the time, this is our moment to make sure that we come back, that we look at all the different pieces, we understand the challenges that got us to this place, but we come back together, we're united as a community to best serve our students, our schools, and we move forward stronger together as one Montclair. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys. Thank you all.